Yastyaktvā rūpamadhyam prabhavati jagatah anekadha anugrahaya prakshīna klesha rashihi Veshama Veshadharaha Aneka Vaktras Subhogi Sarvajnana Prasutihi Bhojaga Parikaraha Pretaye Yasya Nityam Devo Hishaha Savo Vyat Sita Vimalatanuhu Yogado Yogayuktaha Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Ranatosmi Abahu Puruṣakaram Shankha Chakrasidharinam Sahasra Shirasam Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Shrimate Anantaya Nagarajaya Namo Namaha Patanjala Mahabhashya Charaka Pratisamskritai Manovakaya Doshanam Hartre Ahepataye Namaha Bhāśyakrit Sutrakrit Chāpi Nirmalantam Surupinam Dhyātāram Shripatir Nityam Patanjalim Namamyaham So friends, last week we completed the sutra Prakāṣa Kriyās Sthiti Shīlam Bhutendriyatmakam Bhoga Apavargartham Drishyam. It's a very fascinating sutra that describes, for the first time, Patanjali is defining what is Prakṛti. What is Prakṛti, which is very important to understand because the sutras prior to that, Patanjali says the cause of our suffering is the confusion between Prakṛti and Purusha. What is Prakṛti? We don't know. What is Purusha? We don't know. So, therefore, there is dukkham because we are suffering from the confusion of the two. So, he defines what is Prakriti in the previous sutra, Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Sheelam Bhutendriyatmakam Bhoga Apavargartham Drishyam. In continuation of that, Patanjali presents the next sutra, very significant. Vishesha Vishesha Lingamatra Lingani Guna Parvani. This sutra is so fascinating. It shows the genius of Patanjali. There is a philosophy called Sankhya philosophy that was proposed by Kapila, a very great acharya. And Sankhya philosophy is the basis of yoga philosophy. And in this one sutra, Patanjali is actually summarizing most of Sankhya philosophy into one sentence. So, on a very simple level, this sutra could be like Sankhya for dummies. People like us who cannot understand Sankhya philosophy so easily because Sankhya is not very easy to understand. He presents in a very simple way. But at the same time, he is also presenting this for the continuity from the previous sutra because he says, well, Prakriti is this. And we have to know the difference between Prakriti and Purusha. Now, let's try to understand this purpose of this sutra in a slightly different manner. Nowadays, most of the people's favorite pastime is watching movies. Hollywood is so big everywhere, and we have many, many different movies. Nowadays, the makeup artists are so good. So, the same actor is performing different roles. And it's very difficult for us to differentiate that the same actor is in all these roles because the makeup is so good. They almost look like they are a different person. But fundamentally, it is one person appearing in these many versions, many forms. So, unless you have some kind of knowledge about who these people are, or you're following Hollywood very closely, it appears as if these are different people. It appears as if they are very different people. So, we need to know that they are all the same in different forms. So, Patanjali says, Purusha is such an actor, Prakriti is such an actor. Prakriti is not appearing in one form. Prakriti appears in many forms. Therefore, it is difficult for us to differentiate who is Prakriti and who is not. Because Prakriti shows up in various versions. So he says in this sutra, please pay attention because Prakriti is manifesting at least in 4 different kinds of versions. Not 4 versions, 4 kinds of versions. In Sankhya philosophy, the Sankhya Shastra is saying that Prakriti is mutating into many forms, about 24 forms. And Patanjali is saying, well, these 24 forms fit 4 categories. These 24 forms fit 4 categories, and that is what he says, Vishesha, Avishesha, Lingamatra, Alinga. 4 different categories. So, you have to understand that just because it is not appearing in one category, don't think it is not Prakriti because it is coming in another type as well. All these are Prakriti. So, you have to have really the wisdom that Purusha is something separate from any of these 24 versions of Prakriti. So that is what he is crystallizing in this sutra. Vishesha, Avishesha, Lingamatra, Alinga. Now, he has presented in the reverse order of how it evolves, how Prakriti is evolving. Because Prakriti is evolving from Linga to Alinga, Alinga to Avishesha, Alinga to Linga, Linga to Avishesha, Avishesha to Vishesha. That is how it's evolving. But he is presenting in the reverse order of Vishesha, Avishesha, Linga, Alinga. The reason being that the second chapter, as I already told you, is for dummies like us who are affected by the kleshas. So we can't see the subtle so easily. We need to start from the gross and then go to the subtle. And this is what he is explaining. This is what he is explaining. Now, to try and understand this in a very, very simple way, let's take the case of our own evolution in these 4 stages. Now, Vishesha means specific, very specific. Now, each of us, we are very specific. We have a form and a name, what is called Nama and Rupa. We have Rupa and Nama. We have a form, and that form has a name. This form defines me, my name is Kausthub. Somebody else's form defines them, and they have a name that is specific to them. Somebody does not call me with some other name. And therefore it is very specific. It is taken a form that is very specific to me. That is Vishesha. Now, prior to this state, I was in my mother's womb as a womb that in a form which was maybe a piece of flesh. A piece of flesh that is developing, that doesn't have fully yet the form, doesn't fully yet have a name. So I exist, but in a non-specific manner. I exist, but in a non-specific manner. That is Avishesha, non-specific. So I am a blob of flesh and blood, but it's not fully formed. The arms are not fully formed. The eyes are not fully formed. The body structure is not fully formed. But it has already certain characteristics. So it is Avishesha, non-specific. Now, prior to that form, I was nothing more than a seed. I was just a seed, either partly in my mother, partly in my father. That is what is called linga, a seed form. So, that is the third in this sequence that Patanjali is presenting, a seed form that is potent. That means that has the capacity to manifest. Now, prior to that manifestation, perhaps I existed in a state which was impotent. That is what is called alinga. Now, in the example of human beings, it's a bit difficult because alinga is a state of the Prakṛti that is devoid of a connection to consciousness. Therefore, it is the Prakṛti in its original form, in its original nature. What Sankhya calls Mula Prakṛti, but Patanjali uses a very interesting word called Pradhana. In the later chapter, he will use the word Pradhana Jayascha. Pradhana, it's a very beautiful word, the most fundamental, the basis, the foundation. Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Karika, of Ishvara, Krishna and Kapila, they are all using the word Mula Prakṛti, the source Prakṛti. That is not in connection with Purusha. We'll come to that part later. So, that's what are the 4 stages of, let's say, in a very simple way, Sankhya for dummies, that we can explain these 4 categories. So when we look at that, this is the way all matter has evolved. A mango tree is very specific. It's different from papaya tree. Specific features, specific name, specific characteristics. There's nothing that is similar except that it's a tree. Between mango tree and a papaya tree, the essence is different, the flowers are different, the leaves are different. So it's very specific. But each tree, prior to being that form, it existed in a non-specific manner that came from seed, that came from somehow the fundamental source matter. So all evolution in this world has these qualities of the Prakriti in these different stages. That is what this sutra is saying. Now, to understand this, we have to go back to evolution. We have to try to understand it in the reverse order from alinga to linga to avishesha to vishesha. Now, what Sankhya philosophy says that yoga philosophy completely accepts, that's why Patanjali is presenting this text, is in the beginning there was consciousness, Purusha, there was Prakṛti, and they were separate. They had not yet the relationship. And as we saw in the previous sutras, Prakriti is dead, jada tattva, it has no life. It mutates purely because of gunas only. Sattva, rajas and tamas. Like for example, carbon becomes diamond, not because there is consciousness, but because the gunas are changing. The gunas are changing. There is no consciousness in that process involved. So the same way, Prakriti can change on its own in different forms based on the gunas. But Prakriti also changes slightly differently when there is connection to Purusha. At some moment, Purusha and Prakriti unite. Now when Purusha and Prakriti unite, some evolution starts to happen. But prior to this, just to clarify, that Prakriti in its raw form, that is devoid of the connection to Purusha, that is Mula Prakriti, the Pradhana Prakriti. That only has as its Pradhana Dharma the capacity to mutate only according to the gunas. Only the gunas will help it manifest or mutate. There is nothing else that will allow it to manifest. That is alinga. That is alinga. The word linga means potent. Alinga means impotent. It has got no potency. Why? Because it has got not the capacity to become alive. It does not have the capacity to become alive and mutate and reproduce. If you look at this, reproduction is an exclusive function of conscious beings, sentient beings. A diamond does not reproduce. A rock does not reproduce. It changes form, but it does not reproduce. It's not saying it doesn't have change. It has change, but it does not have the concept of reproduction. A diamond does not lay an egg and that becomes a diamond. How easy it will be if that was possible. No? So, madam?
It will be much cheaper.
Yes, it will be much cheaper. Yeah. It will not be so rare. It will not be so valuable. So, there is no quality of mutation of life, conscious life. So, that's why it is called alinga, impotent. It doesn't have the capacity to give an offspring, to regenerate itself. Now, that capacity immediately happens when Purusha and Prakṛti come together. The moment Purusha and Prakṛti to come together, Purusha already changes its nature. Prakṛti already changes its nature from alinga to linga. It gets potency. That's the first mutation of Prakṛti, that is called Mahat or Buddhi. Mahan Buddhi, as explained in Sankhya philosophy. Because now the Prakṛti has the attribute of knowledge, what it can change into. That attribute of knowledge is brought by Purusha. This is a very fundamental difference between Western philosophy and Vedic philosophy, that knowledge is an attribute of Purusha, it is not an attribute of Prakṛti. Your mind has no knowledge. You will see, your mind has memory, it has not knowledge. Knowledge is an attribute of Purusha. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It's of the Purusha, not of Prakṛti. Jnanam is not of matter, not of mind. Mind does not have knowledge. Mind has memory. The knowledge, Jnana Ghana Ananda Ghana Swarupe Avasthanam. When the commentary of the second sutra is done, third sutra, Tada Drashtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam, a question is asked, what is the Swarupa of the Drashta? What is the Swarupa of the Purusha? Purusha has two qualities, Jnana Ghana Ananda Ghana Swarupe Avasthanam. It has the capacity of Jnanam and Ananda. Ananda is also not the quality of Prakṛti. Your tongue does not enjoy the food. Your eyes does not enjoy the movie. Your ears does not enjoy the music. It is Purusha that enjoys. It is Purusha that enjoys, because if it really was your eyes, nose and ears and tongue, a dead body should enjoy. You play the best music to a dead body, it will not enjoy. Why? Because the ears are there, the eyes are there, the nose is there, but Purusha is not there. So that's why the Jnanam and Anandam are attributes of Purusha, not of Prakṛti. So that's why the first mutation is called Mahat. Mahan Buddhi. Now, that is making this what is called the Linga Tattva, the potent reality, the first mutation of Prakṛti. Then comes the next evolute. Once that Purusha is hosted in the matter, the fundamental matter, the Purusha starts to identify, what can I become? What can I become? What can I become? Like probably the seed, when they fused together and became potent, already at that time, it knew, okay, it's going to be a boy in my case. It's going to be a male with brown skin, black hair, etc. It was already, that knowledge was there. That's what is Buddhi. And so slowly starts its identification. Okay, I have to become this. I have to become this. I have to become this. So that state where there is what is called identification, that is the next evolute, that is called asmita. By yoga philosophers, by Patanjali uses the word asmita. Sankhya uses the word ahankara. The identity state is determining then, okay, how, once I know I have to be a boy with brown skin and black hair and things like that, it starts to evolve matter according to that. The Purusha starts influencing matter to develop that way. So for that, it creates what is called the fundamental state of Prakṛti, that is called Tanmatras. And there are 5 Tanmatras: Shabda Tanmatra, Sparsha Tanmatra, Rupa Tanmatra, Rasa Tanmatra, and Gandha Tanmatra. It develops into these fundamental, elemental material structures. So these 5 plus asmita, they are what is called the non-specific form of our evolution. That is what is called avishesha. Non-specific, because it's not yet fully formed, but it knows what it has to become. It knows already because there is an identity. Already an identity is there. An identity at a very fundamental structure, not through name and form. That comes later. So that is what is called ahankara by Sankhya philosophy. By Patanjali, he calls it asmita, identification. Now once this identification is there, the Tanmatras and ahankara, they start thinking, okay, we have to evolve further. So they branch off into 16 further tattvas. What is called the bhutas, the elements. The 5 elements that make up the body, the 5 senses that make up the body, and the mind structure. They evolve. So they are all evolving like that, and evolves what is called the senses of perception and senses of action. Jnanendriyas, karmendriyas. They all start to have a form. So slowly the bhutas, the indriyas, all these things, manas, mind also comes. Each of us, we have a very unique mind that is driving us. So all these form what is called the specific vishesha. 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 bhutas, and the manas, 16 of them. Prior to that, 6 of them is avishesha, the non-specific, the 5 tanmatras and ahankara. So 22. Then comes 23, Mahat tattva or the Buddhi. 24, Mula Prakṛti. And all these 24 are on the side of Prakṛti. Then comes Purusha, the 25th tattva, that is on the other side, which is not part of matter, but it needs matter to evolve into its dharma. So that is what are the 4 categories of the Prakṛti that evolves in this particular way. In these particular ways. So this is the first part of this sutra, Vishesha, Avishesha, Lingamatra, Alingani. So each creation in this world, it has these 4 stages as long as there is the connection to Purusha. As long as there is a connection to Purusha, these mutations happen. And each one is a reality, each one is a tattva. That's why Sankhya calls this as the 24 tattvas, the realities. Now, even though something is in a non-specific form, it still is a reality. And what defines a reality is a change from its previous state. Patanjali explains this later in the 3rd and 4th chapters. Parinamayikatvat vastu tattvam. Because of one change, manifests one reality. A linga becoming linga is a change. So because of that parinama, forms the reality of a linga from linga to avishesha. It is a change that creates that reality. From avishesha to vishesha is a change that creates a reality. So this is also very significant because this sutra is also a very important counter attack by Patanjali in a very smart way to certain schools that existed in the past who were called the school of Chitta Tantras. Patanjali will talk about that in the later chapters. Nacha eka chitta tantran chedvastu tada pramanakam tada kim syat. Patanjali will challenge them, refute them. But this is very defining sutra of Patanjali because the Chitta Tantras are of the school where they are saying that all this creation is only a manifestation of the mind. It's only a manifestation of the mind. So that is one view which is believing in what is called Chitta Tattva. That is, whatever is created is the creation of the mind. If the mind doesn't create it, there is no reality. So almost like the concept of Mayavada, that everything is an illusion. Because mind is creating these objects, it's not real. Patanjali is belonging to the school that is called Satvada. Everything is real. They may not be specific, but it is a reality. You cannot deny that. That you are eating a mango is real. You are also real, the mango is also real. That you have a cat, you are also real, the cat is also real. It's not an illusion. And that is what Patanjali will refute. In the later chapter, he will say, just because you don't see something, it doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. I have not seen many places in the world. I have never been to Antarctica, so it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Patanjali will challenge it that way. Tat apramanakam tada kim syat. Just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. The same acharyas like Nathamuni is refuting. He says, a deaf person cannot hear. A blind person cannot see. Does it mean that something that a deaf person cannot hear does not exist? Something that a blind person cannot see does not exist? It's not true. Reality is there. Whether you perceive it or not, that is your business. But reality is existing. That's why Patanjali school is called Satvada school. Satvada school. That means the reality exists. That's another reason why he is presenting this sutra, to establish his stance that we belong to the school of Sattvadas, that there is reality. And next sutra will even more strongly establish. In two sutras later he will say, Kritartam pratinashtam api anashtam tad anya sadharanatvat. He will establish this even more strongly. We'll discuss that when we come to that. So Patanjali's view is very clear that reality is existing in one form or the other. And that is where he is also belonging to the school of Sattvada and Parinamavada, because the reality is also changing. Just because a reality is changing, it does not mean it is not the truth. And this is very, very fascinating because many times we define truth as that which does not change. If something is changing all the time, we don't think it's the truth. But Patanjali is saying, well, the truth is changing. A mango is existing in one form today. You leave it for 10 days, it will get rotten, it will change its form. That is also its reality. It still has the essence of the mango, but it is a rotten mango. It is still a mango. When it exists in the seed form, it is still a seed of the mango. So it's a reality, but it has got the possibility to change. That's the second part of the sutra, Guna Parvani. Guna Parvani means it is consistent with the changes of the gunas, the evolution of the gunas. And what is very significant is that gunas are creating the changes normally. That's what I told you before. Prakṛti changes according to the gunas. But Prakṛti also can change according to its connection with consciousness. Purusha, that's where it's changing from form of Alinga to avishesha to vishesha. But Patanjali gives a, a little caveat. He gives a little lock. He says boundary. He says, yes, Prakriti can change, but within the limitations of the gunas. A mango seed has consciousness. It can change in these 4 stages of alinga, linga, avishesha, vishesha, but it is within what the gunas will allow it, which means it is the fact that it is a mango that cannot be changed. The fact that it is a mango that cannot be changed, because the gunas have already defined its possibility, its potential. That is one idea of that. Same way, we also cannot change what we cannot be, because there is a boundary of the guna. I am a male, I cannot be a mother. It's not possible because the gunas does not allow that. The gunas allow me to be a male, doesn't allow me to have the possibilities that a female can have. So that's why that little lock is given, guna parvani, within the constraints of the gunas. But it's said in a beautiful way, even within the constraints of the gunas, in consistency with the gunas. Now, without interference of genetically modified crops, if we have to be natural, mangoes will grow only in a particular season, because the guna is right for that. It will come usually in May, June. Mangoes in South India comes in May and June. You cannot have mangoes in December. It's not possible. Now with genetic injections, everything is possible. But if you left it to nature, the guna only allows the mango to be a mango when the guna is right. The same way, a woman can be a mother only a certain time of her life, when the gunas have not yet taken form before adolescence. Like a 6-year-old girl or a 7-year-old girl, she cannot be a mother. A woman who has gone through menopause later in her life, she cannot be a mother. There is a boundary of the gunas. So yes, Purusha can influence changes, but still within the constraint of the gunas. Please remember, don't change that. You cannot change that. Part of our suffering is tapa dukkha, our expectations, our entitlement. We think everything should be possible because we are human. We can do everything. People are brainwashing. You can do everything. That is the biggest lie. You cannot do everything. Because we all have the boundaries of the gunas. Within the gunas, you can do what you want. That's why my father always used to give a very good example of what is freedom. He would say, many Western people think they can do whatever they want. And he would always answer, it's not true. Because freedom is like a river that is flowing. The river is flowing freely, but always within the banks. There is a boundary. Freedom is not that the water flows everywhere. Then the river will dry out very soon. If the water flows everywhere in all directions, very soon the river will not be there, because all the earth will absorb the water. Whereas if it goes within the bank, it will go very far. So even a river has a boundary, and that is what is freedom. Freedom is within the boundaries. The same way, our freedom, our liberation is to express our potential within our dharma. That is why the word used by our acharyas, including Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, is swadharma, one's own dharma. You don't have to become like somebody else to be liberated. You only have to be yourself. You cannot compare you to another person, because your guna and another person's guna is not the same, even among twins. Even among twins. Many women are here in this room. Majority women, many of you have children, more than one child. You will see that no two children are the same. You can't expect the same from the two children. Why? Because they are different. The same you have to extend it to yourself. You can't compare yourself with anybody else. Our freedom, liberation is within our dharma, within our nature, not to do whatever we can, whatever we want. Whatever we can, yes, not whatever we want. That's why we have what is called tapa dukkha. Dukkham because of expectations. Dukkham because of expectations. Because we expect that we can do whatever we want, and we are expected by our society and our parents to be like somebody else. Many people ask me, oh, why are you not like your father? I ask them back, are you like your father? And even my father was not like his father. Everybody is different. So our freedom is not by trying to be like somebody else. Our freedom is to be ourselves. That is this last part, the guna parvani part, which is so important because our reality is valid. Who we are is valid. If we are here in this life, there is a purpose. And that purpose is not only to eat, sleep and procreate. We have a higher purpose, each of us. We have to find that and explore that and develop into that. And that is our unique journey that we can only do alone. Spiritual evolution is a lonely journey. We may be in a community, but each of the persons will not become the same. You can wear the same clothes, but each person will be different. The personality will be different. The potential will be different. We cannot be the same. That is why the little boundary is given by Patanjali where he says, Guna Parvani, all this evolution will have within the framework of the gunas. You cannot expand beyond the limitations of the gunas. Such is very, very difficult. When you become that, if it's possible, it's only possible for Videhas. Because I have to explain, Patanjali has talked about Videha in the first chapter. Videha are people who are devoid of the usual body. What is called, they don't have Sthula Sharira, they only have Sukshma Sharira. We all have Sthula Sharira, gross body. Videhas are those who have only Sukshma Sharira. And Patanjali is explaining that there may be some people like that, but that is not most of us. That's why he gives a warning even there. Don't follow the Bhava Pratyaya, become Shraddha Pratyaya. Only hard work and effort will actually help you. So this is the summary of this sutra. Vishesha Vishesha Lingamatra Lingani Guna Parvani. Namaste, my dear friends. Thank you.